If there was something that I could go back and do all over again, is that I would learn about what an upper limit is and how I have maybe self-sabotaged myself or was doing that. I would really think about how I could even raise my upper limit because when you are aware of this, it really gives you the one up in your life. And that is an area that I feel like I didn't explore as much as I did when I was on my journey to manifesting more money. And unfortunately, it did cause me what I would say some subconscious limiting beliefs, and it kind of dampened my process because I didn't realize what I was doing. And I think that everyone should be aware of this. And that's why I really want to talk about this here on the Money Goddess podcast. I actually was reading, I believe the book is called Letting Go, and it's by David Hawkins. And he actually goes into details about this. And I am going to add this as a link in the show notes for you to check out the book. And I have a collection of books that I recommend everyone checking out, especially if you are into anything manifestation around the area of money, abundance, and wealth. I love you guys so much, and I'm excited to get into this episode. I just had to tell you the Money Goddess podcast is always expanding. And not only are we expanding here whenever we are discussing topics like this, but we are expanding around the world. And I'm very excited about that. So if you are new to the Money Goddess podcast, I want to welcome you. This is a community of learners and amazing people who want to better themselves in all the ways, and understanding your upper limit is something that will change the way that you do life. So, I want to first start off with sharing with you what an upper limit actually is, because it wasn't something that I was fully aware of. I kind of knew, but I didn't know until I got to a point to where I would hit my upper limit and I kept hitting it, and it was like a pattern or a cycle when things would get good, and then I would find myself self-sabotaging. So the first time I think I ever encountered my upper limit in money manifestation was in 2018. I right before the end of 2017, I had quit my full-time job as a teacher and I went into full-time entrepreneurship, and we had so much like success and I was very happy about it. And I also found myself in both of my businesses kind of starting to curl up and not wanting to show up, feeling like crying. All of that was happening, even though I was super, like, more successful than I had ever been. And now looking back, that was over 6 years ago. I had hit my upper limit and I did not know what to do with it. The things that I'm sharing with you now were not talked about during that time. I know a lot of people who had success even earlier than I did, and they didn't know about their upper limit. Like I know someone, Amanda Francis, I remember she shared that she had like maybe six-figure months, and then she was like thinking she might die and have like get cancer and die. Like those are upper limits. And it is not something that's talked about a lot. Everyone wants to tell you how to manifest your dream life and, you know, all of that, but they're not teaching you how to sustain it. If you ever follow someone in the social media world, or if you have a coach or a mentor who's always telling you about how to get it and not how to sustain it, you might want to stop working with them, because sustainability is the most important piece in your manifestation journey. Everyone talks about, for example, how to lose weight, but you don't hear many people talking about how to sustain the weight loss. And what's crazy is I remember, even last night I was watching the Ozempic craze in Hollywood. And what I learned is, Ozempic is great for losing weight, but once you get off of it, you're probably going to gain 2/3 of the weight back. And I want you to think about your manifestation journey in that way. Like, can you really sustain all of this fast success? When you build quickly, it makes it easier to crumble quickly. And this isn't to scare you or to make you go way slower than necessary, but it's just to kind of give you some wisdom that we want to raise our upper limit in a way that is sustainable. If I'm honest with you, I would, if I had a lottery ticket of $300 million, while I have worked on my nervous system, I have done a lot of work, I don't think that I'd be ready for $300 million. And you're talking to the money goddess. You're talking to somebody that does this work all the time. But I don't think that I would be ready. I would know what to do with it, but I don't really have a plan, like a true actionable plan of what to do with the money, how to sustain it, because I haven't gotten to that level of millions. I'm not a centimillionaire. I'm a multimillionaire, but not a centimillionaire. And I think that the way that they do things is going to be a little bit different. And if you've ever wondered why sometimes you feel like you go slower than others, or, you see people having this really, really what seems like quick success, it might be because God is trying to protect you from hitting your upper limit and self-sabotaging. Because there are some things you are not going to be able to get back when you have a quick success. I know some people that have ran into money really early and they're like, 18 to 20, and they have squandered it. They've messed up a lot of relationships that they can't get back because they got things very quickly and they just didn't know how to handle it. And so when you understand and know your upper limit, like, this is how good I am willing to let it get. And you notice you start to kind of crack up a little bit and you're like, whoa, where did that come from? And then you just keep going down. That is your upper limit. And you want to be aware of it because it will come even if it's not a big, huge change. It could be really something small. So I recognize when I have certain upper limits, it might come through, especially in my marriage, my like I might pick a little argument. So an example of that is like if my husband does something and maybe I wasn't ready for it, I might pick at it, even though it might be something that I wanted, like, oh, let's cuddle a little more, or, just something really small, and he does it and he's successful. I found that in the past, I would do like something to kind of argue and get his attention, I guess. But it was really my upper limit saying, I am scared. Like, what are you doing? You're changing my life. This is crazy. But what you have to recognize is, what do you do when you reach your upper limit? How good are you willing to let your life get? I hear people all the time, universe, show me how good I can get. More so, how good are you willing to let it get? Even whenever I kind of got back into the workforce after having my son, I hated having downtime and free time, not recognizing that I created that life for myself. I wasn't allowing myself to let it get good. I wasn't trying to embrace the fact that I created a free life where I could do anything that I wanted to do and not have to worry about finances. But that's what I asked for. That's what I wanted. And a lot of people do this and don't even recognize it. We gripe and we complain and we really just complicate our lives because of that simple thing. How good are we willing to let it get? So I had to start practicing and saying, wait a minute. Number one, I wanted this. And then I had to remember why I wanted it. I wanted that freedom because I like being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And I don't have anyone telling me that I have to do something or else. And the third reason is because I wanted to have a lifestyle where if I wanted to stop working or to go and volunteer at my kids' school or whatever, that I could actually do that and not have to worry about making a certain amount of money, about a job or anything like that. And it opened my mind to realize I didn't think I was good enough to have this life at that point. Now, anytime before that, it didn't bother me, but it was something about being a mother and having that freedom that made me feel guilty on almost. And that can be a part of your upper limit is that when you do get the things that you desire, you almost feel guilty for having it. And you don't really enjoy it or you're not really embracing it because you finally got the things that you truly wanted. And I would say that even happened in with my husband. I remember when we got together when we were younger and he had finally gotten the woman of his dreams. And you know what he did? He unfortunately self-sabotaged. Now we know well now I know what it was and he knows what it was and we can actually talk about it and see we really struggled with that. I even found myself a little bit, but his was a lot more blatant. Like he could not handle how good his life had gotten by us being together. Yeah. You guys, this is more common than you think. This happens so often that I don't even think we recognize the severity of the upper limits that we have. I remember an example of an upper limit in David Hawkins' book, and he mentioned about him sending his child off to camp, and then he just had all of these bad thoughts about his kid and oh, is she safe, is she okay, and he had never had those before, but lo and behold his daughter was completely fine. And what I also looked at when I have those thoughts that just pop up out of nowhere, it's literally because I'm afraid of it being good. I'm afraid of having the happiness and having the joy and having the fun. And it's because our minds and our bodies are not conditioned for pleasure. I want you to take that in. Our brains are meant to survive, not thrive. It wasn't all that long ago that we were living outside. When you really sit back and think about it, like the way our lives have evolved, we live in air-conditioned homes. We have luxuries of technology. We have so much freedom, so much more than we've ever had before. Our minds and bodies are not used to this. That's why you see people stuck in patterns of poverty, toxic relationships, because our brains don't want it to get any better. It's almost like a danger zone for things to get any better. So before you go around saying, universe, show me how good it could get, Ask yourself, how good am I willing to let this get? When you do that, it is going to open up a floodgate. So, an exercise I would like for you to try on your own is getting out your journal and writing down the question, how good am I willing to let it get? And write it out in every single area of your life. So, for me, on a spiritual level, so one thing that I said I want to let things get better is being in flow with the divine and what that looks like. So I was a person who was very type A. I had to know my exact plan. I had to know every step of the way. And as time has gone on, I've been able to really loosen up and kind of let God take the lead on things. And what that did was open the doors for me to let my husband take the lead in a lot of things. And me not worrying or me not stressing, it led to me trusting more. And so I was letting God move things and do things that I was never really letting God do before. And that's how I knew, okay, I'm letting this get good. So where in your spiritual path can you let things get better? Where can you loosen up? Then I want you to think about your relationships, the things that you would love to have in your relationship. But ask yourself, are you ready for it to be this good? Are you ready to be in love and actually enjoy it and stay in love? Are you ready to go through all of the beautiful seasons that love has to offer? Are you ready to get a raise or a promotion on your job? Are you ready for consistency in your business? Are you ready to get out of a cycle where you are neglecting your needs with your body, your mind, your soul? Look at every single area and ask yourself, am I letting this area be good? Or am I finding things wrong? Because that is another way that you might be self-sabotaging, where you are literally living the dream, but you find things wrong in everything. Oh, well, a client showed up 2 minutes late. Come on. You remember when you didn't have clients? Or maybe you're being nitpicky with certain things or finding faults in yourself or even others. Think about that because it really shows where you need to loosen up and allow. So, I want to talk about how you can increase your upper limit in a couple different segments. Okay. So, after you have completed the ways you want to let your life get better, I want you to then consider, okay, where in my life can I really focus on? And even if it's just one area that you choose. So you wrote down all the areas, but if it's just one area that you really want to focus in on, maybe it's an area that's a little easier for you and you feel like it would be a quick fix. Allow yourself to zone in there. Here's what we're going to do. A couple things you can do to increase your upper limit. First, I want you to regulate your nervous system. I cannot stress this enough. Nervous system regulation changed my entire life. During my postpartum period, I struggled, and I didn't even know it was really about my nervous system. I thought it was just anxiety and depression, and just my hormones. But I really had a lot of pent up emotions that I didn't know how to process. Upper limits trigger emotions. It's going to trigger everything that you could possibly think about going wrong. It's going to trigger those things, whether it's your inner childhood, whether it's shadow work of trauma that you have struggled with. That is why nervous system regulation helps. I've even learned too, and I'm going to discuss this with my partner. When my son has tantrums, we normally just walk away and let him do that. But also, creating a healthy space for my son to have his tantrums is very important, even as he ages or grows out of them. Because with nervous system regulation, it's two different parts to it. One that I like to do is emotional freedom tapping, and the other is somatic shaking. So, the reason why I brought up the temper tantrum is because it is basically when you have a temper tantrum, you're crying, you're shaking your body, you're doing all of these things. And then when a child finishes their temper tantrum, it's like it never happened. And you, as a parent, are like, what? You just went crazy. And you mean to tell me you moved on, you're ready to play, you're doing all the things. But that is what we all need. We need that space to get that energy out because a lot of us have so much pent up energy, we don't even recognize it. And it comes out through our upper limits. It comes out in, as I mentioned, arguments or having an attitude. It might even become trapped in your body somewhere. So if you notice you have certain aches in certain places, or it feels very stuck and rigid, that's what's happening. So the somatic shaking is really good for you to do. I used to do it a lot more, probably a few months ago, but I found that once I kind of started doing it regularly, I didn't need it as much. And I just kind of do it sometimes just for maintenance. But it's basically where you just shake your entire body. And I teach this in my Money Honey Digital course and group coaching program. Basically, like you're shaking your body in different parts and sections, and you're doing a lot of deep breath work to let out that stagnant, stuck energy that is in your body. If you ever look at a dog, they actually do this all the time, where when a dog begins to like feel anxiety or any emotion, they'll just shake themselves really quickly and then they'll yawn and they're good. Well, that's what you're doing with somatic shaking. You would be letting go of that emotion and you may yawn and you start to feel a lot better. The same thing occurs during EFT tapping. With emotional freedom technique tapping, you are hitting your meridian points on your body and moving through an emotion. So I have some TikTok videos if you ever want to check those out. I think I have some on YouTube as well that you can look at, but those meridian points are being tapped with your top of your head, your side of your eyebrows, the side of your eye, under your eye, nose, above your chin, collarbones, under your chest area, and your karate points. And so, what you will do is basically talk through that emotion of what you are feeling. So, expressing how you're feeling and try to open yourself up to, okay, but I can work through this. And then get to the other side of where you have worked through it. So let's say you notice you have an upper limit issue with finances. You always find yourself when you get to a certain amount of money saved, something always comes up and you just wind up spending that money. Well, your upper limit is that amount. So to not only sustain that particular amount of money, let's up it, right? So we're going to tap through and talk about, even though I always spend my money at a certain amount after I've saved for so long, I still love and accept myself. I know that I can save more money and keep going, but somehow I always stop myself, right? And as you're talking through that, you'll start to see what it is, and it'll help you release that emotion to where you can say, but I'm starting to feel better about it. And I know if I can just keep working towards saving, eventually I'll get better and better at my spending. I'll begin to see when I'm getting triggered for spending. I understand I get triggered because it is an upper limit for me to have so much money. I am afraid of having a certain amount of money because I know that I don't trust myself, right? So I'm starting to get deeper and deeper and deeper. That is what nervous system regulation can do, as well as when I talk in a moment about subconscious blockages. Okay, you guys, this stuff goes deep. The more you dig into this and do it regularly, you'll start to uncover a lot of things that you didn't even know existed. And I heard someone say this, I think on YouTube, her name is Alexis. But she talks about a quote from Carl Jung, who discusses that until you know what subconscious like programming that you have, you're always going to think your life is fate. When in reality, you've been kind of like walking around letting your subconscious mind control your life. And for me, I would say that is the difference between myself and a lot of people that I have seen come before me in generations. They are letting their subconscious mind, their inner childhood issues, their traumas that they won't talk about, they won't go to counseling and really seek deep help because they don't want to face themselves. And as a result, they keep repeating the same patterns over and over, and they don't even recognize it. And so, by you even listening to this and being aware, taking the steps to journal about this, considering implementing these things into your lives, you are one step ahead of where you need to be, should be, whatever. It's amazing. You are becoming and probably already are a one percenter. You're the person that's willing to do the things that a lot of people won't. So I would recommend with nervous system regulation, when you're first starting, make it a non-negotiable to do it 2 times a day, in the morning and at night. I would say spend about maybe 5 to 10 minutes doing either somatic shaking or EFT. Figure out kind of which one you like the best. It will be the most helpful and impactful, and you'll notice probably within about 21 to 30 days. What I would say happened, not only was it that my upper limits were like shown to me, I could see them and not be triggered, but instead like become a gentle observer because I was more relaxed. So nervous system regulation kind of relaxes you not to like react, but to simply observe. And when you're in an observing standpoint, you start to really see that what is happening can't control you. Like you feel more in control of the situation and that you can actually do something about it. And from that point, there is no limit that can be placed on you because now you can see. When you have subconscious blockages, you can't see. You just think everything is like out here in the conscious realm. Your brain, 95% of what happens in your life is from your subconscious mind. Hopefully that woke you up. 95% of your life. Only about 5% of your life is from your conscious brain. So that's why you have to really work on your subconscious mind because it is running your life. Why not give your subconscious mind the blueprint? Starting off with that nervous system regulation, you're going to see yourself soar. For me, not only was I able to work on my subconscious mind, it made me much more calm, alleviated my anxiety. I also no longer had cravings, like certain foods. I would be craving so much, and all of a sudden, like, I just wasn't hungry as much anymore because guess what? I wasn't emotionally eating. I wasn't eating based on how I felt. I was just kind of naturally going with the flow, and I still do that. And I've been doing nervous system regulation techniques for 10 months now, and I still do EFT tapping for like more so maintenance. And I once a week I'll do like a lengthier session at about 10 minutes. And then on a daily basis, I'll do like maybe 3 to 5 full taps. But it's kind of embedded in my body now, and I don't necessarily have to do it for as long of segments, but I have found my life improve and increase in my levels of happiness and what I'm willing to allow into my life, and even what I'm not willing to allow into my life. When you recognize your upper limits, you also will begin to raise your standards and you'll begin to see who can be a part of that and who can't be a part of that. And you don't do it from a place of you're mad or angry or you feel a certain type of way about someone. It just comes from a place of, I really don't want to continue on the path that we are on because I have decided to raise my own standards and I see things differently and I want to go in another direction. I also found a lot more peace. Oh my gosh, I cannot stress to you the amount of peace that has happened now that I know my upper limits, especially in my relationship. So remember when I told you that like I would kind of like almost pick arguments? Now I don't. And like I remember my husband said something to me and it kind of like rubbed me the wrong way, but I literally just got up, walked away, did some EFT tapping, went back in and pretended almost as though it never happened. And he said that to me. He was like, "You act like that didn't happen." I said, "Because it didn't." And the reason why I didn't, because I tuned into my emotion, and that could have been an upper limit where he said something that didn't sit right with me. And so it could have easily turned into an argument. But I have so much peace now because I recognize I'm not allowing anything to disrupt my peace at all. And that's what an upper limit is. When you get to that point to where you recognize it, you not only allow things in, you stop putting up a fight for the goodness and you start to let the goodness just sink in. Like, why would I not? We've all worked so hard some way, somehow in our lives. Like, why would we not allow this goodness? Why? Now, listen, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I have some more tips for you that I think are going to help with those subconscious blockages, any repeating patterns that you might have, and how to stop those. And then how I'm going to help you to focus on the here and now and being in the present so that you can just further enjoy your dream life.
In your manifestation journey of building 6-figure plus wealth, you can use journaling to help you get there. If you would like, you can grab my Journal Your Way to 100K workbook at shesworthy.org/journal.
All right, everyone, we are back and we are going to continue to focus in on how we can raise our upper limits to manifest that dream life. One thing that I've already shared so far is nervous system regulation. And now I'm going to talk about something that is a little bit deeper than just our physiological body. I'm going to help you tap into that subconscious mind because, as I mentioned, your subconscious mind is 95% of your brain power. Your subconscious mind picks up on so many different things that you don't even realize are around you. I have learned through studying information about the brain that your brain can only, and your mind itself can only take in so many things around you. Like everything is not what meets the eye, it's always deeper than you really think. And you have to protect your brain at all cost because if you don't, your 95% is going to run your life in a negative way, especially if you have patterns that you might have picked up from childhood. You might not even realize you had these specific patterns. It happens. Even if you grew up in the best household possible, there could have been something toxic that you picked up along the way, or being in school, situations. It is almost inevitable. But the good thing is that you have the power to determine how you want your subconscious mind to move forward. And one of the best ways that I help my subconscious mind is through subliminals. I make my own subliminals, which I'll share with you how to do that. But I also utilize different YouTube subliminals that have been created. So I want to be very clear. When you are listening to other subliminals that people have created, if they don't give you the list of affirmations that they put into those subliminals, you might not really want to use them because it's important for that transparency. You don't want someone to have power over your mind and you don't know what they're talking about. Think about that. So, with that subconscious mind power through subliminals, it's able to, you won't hear what's being said, but your brain will hear what's being said. And you can just listen when you are cleaning up, or if you are just kind of going about your day and not really thinking deeply into it. And that's something that I do as well. One of my favorite subliminals is from Sub Sam's, and you can look them up on YouTube. They actually have a subliminal for subconscious blockages. When I tell you, I listen to that. So they have a longer one, but I only listen to it for about 15 to 20 minutes because it prompts me to journal right away. I literally begin journaling, and all of these limiting beliefs that I might have had, oh my gosh, like they just show up, and I'm able to really kind of push through them, and it allows me to recognize things that I might have been struggling with. I'll give you an example. I did this yesterday, and I found myself in the past, like if I didn't have a really busy week, I wouldn't value myself as much. I felt like if I wasn't like working and making a certain amount of money, that I was not worthy of maybe like the rest that I could finally get, or getting around to other things. Like I almost felt like I was programmed to work. And so when I play those subliminals, everything came out. I realized that society has taught us that we have to work at like 5 days a week. Like, truthfully, we should not be working 5 days a week. The lifestyle that I have allows me to work when I would like to work, but I was still carrying that guilt around. And then there was the guilt of, oh, well, I'm not bringing in active income. But I've set up so many passive income streams that I don't have to have an active income. I choose to have one. Well, two or three, whatever, and it's just one of those things that I would not have been able to recognize if I did not put that subliminal on to really catch those areas of my life where I just wasn't paying close attention. I was just thinking that, man, why am I feeling bad? But that subliminal let me know it was something internal. And so I journaled that out. And then I would also say, too, if you don't necessarily want to listen to someone else's subliminals, now some people are really good at those. I would say Lisa Alexander is also really good at subliminals as well. I create my own through the Parrot app. So I know I had Lydia on the show, and Lydia is actually my coach that I met eight, almost 8 years ago. So she actually put me on that, I think in 2022. So what I would do is that I would record, like, first of all, my journal your way to 100K has all of these steps in there. Okay. So, but what the gist of it is, I would essentially write out my limiting beliefs, turn them into positive affirmations, and record those on the Parrot app. And I would listen to them, and I still do that. I listen to them first thing in the morning. That really helps me, and I'm doing that. Like, I just did it because I was getting my son ready, and I just have my phone, by me, and I'm just like listening. Not focusing listening, but just in the atmosphere. And it really programs my mind. Like, I literally program myself to be happy with my life. Like, I have never been more happy. I've never been more peaceful. And I know it has to do with listening to those specific affirmations that I created, because prior to that, I was happy with my life, but I was finding problems and I wasn't really enjoying and embracing. And that's what those affirmations I created are all about. And now, like, I'm always so grateful. I'm always so happy. Like, and I know it's because of that. So I highly encourage you not only to listen to the subliminals once or twice. I recommend every single day. So I did this for exactly yesterday made 3 months that I've been listening to this subliminal. I really started to see the results, I would say, within 1 month. And then, like, it just got better and better. I'm going to keep listening to those because I really want to propel that forward. Like, that's where I want to be. And you can change your subliminals as well. You can put them into, if you want to talk about finances, if you want to talk about relationship, you want to talk about your body, like whatever, you can make those however you want them to be. It is totally up to you. So another way to increase your upper limit is to journal on any problem areas to see if you are letting it improve. So if there are certain areas of your life that you notice are not maybe getting your attention because you have other areas that you're focusing in on, I will be honest. So for me, I am a very balanced person, and I always have been very well-rounded. I can just do that. Like, I'm really good at, when I say multitasking, I don't mean true multitasking. I mean holding different areas in my life and actually being successful at each one of those. But that is not how everyone works. Some people focus in on one thing at a time, and it like takes all of their attention, and they don't have balance in the other areas. Truthfully, if I look, we really can only hold 3 areas really, really strongly. And it's not because we are incapable. It's just because the truth is, when you start adding more than 3, that's when it becomes an imbalance. So let's say you have your big 3 and you're doing really well in 2 areas, but one of them is like, you realize, hey, I can really see about improving that. but you want to journal to see if you are even letting it improve. Okay. So I'll give you an example. Let's say one of your problem areas is your finances. Are you allowing it to improve, whether it is active income or passive income? If it's gifts, if it's checks in the mail, are you allowing people to give to you? Are you allowing yourself to get the raise or the promotion? Or are you saying, no, I don't really want that much work? Or, oh, this is just no, right? And you have to think about, why are you not letting that improve in your life? What is it that is stopping you, or are you stopping yourself? Do you have some self-sabotage patterns where you're able to see, like, man, I'm really not letting this part of my life get better? I know for me, it was my relationship. And I shared that a little bit earlier in the podcast, where I wasn't trying to let it improve at that point in my life. And I was almost starting to sabotage certain areas because I just kept repeating that pattern. And a lot of it had to do with not feeling safe. And you have to ask yourself, do you feel safe letting your life improve? And the same thing with, for example, I am really working this last quarter of 2024. I'm really working on my fitness, and I've always been really good at like just general health and wellness, but just like really kind of beefing up the fitness. I started that, was that, yeah, quarter three, I really started going into it a little bit harder, but now quarter four, like I've joined Pilates, like I'm really, really sculpting my body. And I recognize, like, sometimes I go really hard in my physical fitness and then I like fall off. And I started wondering, like, what is it that makes me fall off? Like, am I truly self-sabotaging? Am I taking a proper break? What is it? Because if I'm doing really, really well, what's that disconnect of stopping? And that is something that I realized, like, I think I have an upper limit problem where my body will get so good at to where I want it to be, but then I do something or I kind of like fall off because maybe I was, doing too much in the beginning. I wasn't really taking, adequate, realistic steps. Like, I just look at that, and you have to see if you have certain patterns. Look at your patterns in an area of your life where you keep having problems. If it is around the area of money, I want you guys to really think about this. With your money habits, do you continuously save a certain amount of money and then you realize by the end of the year it's gone and you're like starting all the way over? What about even in your business? You recognize the seasons of your business, but you are so gung-ho on, like, okay, like it has to be like this. I can't do anything further. I just have to accept it, right? You're not opening your mind up for new opportunities. You're not really trying to let things get good. And you really have to ask yourself, like, why am I not allowing it to get good? And write down the self-sabotaging behaviors that you might see, because we all have them in a certain way, whether it's we pick arguments with others, even if we have a good relationship, if we are doing really well with money and then we just find a way to kind of like set ourselves back. If it's dealing with our bodies and we like self-sabotage with, oh, I'm just gonna, stop doing this. Like, what is it? What is it? And how can we become aware? Because I think the awareness is what really takes you to that next level. And a lot of people don't talk about how important awareness is. I remember talking with a friend years ago, and She was like, Jasmine, one of your greatest gifts is that you are aware of yourself because a lot of people are not even aware. And I took that for granted. And now I full body understand what she was saying at that time. But what you want to do is the more you become aware of what you're doing, the more you're giving yourself a chance to fix those particular patterns. Now, another thing that I really think is going to help with you increasing your upper limit is thinking about yourself in the present. Okay. What I have found in the manifestation journey is that a lot of people always focus on their future selves. And I may talk about this a little bit more in another podcast episode, but I have learned that a lot of people are always wanting to say, oh, well, what would my future self be doing? How would she look? How would she think? And while your future self is a wonderful concept, you want to think about who you are now. On those subliminals that I created, I didn't focus on where I was in the future. I called that now. The future is now. What you're doing now dictates your future. So, what I want you to do is consider, okay, yes, we have that future person and what they look like, what they smell like, what they do, how they act, what traits do they have. Become that now. So, what that might look like is you writing out a list of maybe 3 action steps that you can take within a reasonable amount of time that's going to help you build up that future self now. So, an example of that might be, let's say you, as your future self, right? You're manifesting that dream life, you're upping your upper limit. You might consider dressing up a little bit more. You might want to get in an extra workout a week, and maybe you even want to I don't know, make peace within yourself. Like maybe you're healing something, right? Just 3 action steps that you can really take to propel yourself forward. And knowing that every time you take a step, that future self is already being created. When you're only focused on the future, that creates anxiety. But when you bring that future into the now and you're actually taking the steps, you are really pushing the needle. And this is where the compound effect comes in. That is another book that I would recommend, and I have a whole list. I'm gonna eventually like get this list out, but it is on my if you go on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, if you click the link in my bio, you'll see my books that I recommend you all read. But that book with the compound effect, it really helps because if you're always so focused on the future, you don't realize how great you are now, and you don't get to see that you're compounding. Like each day, you are compounding on the results that you would want to have that dream life. And reminding myself of this helps me so much every day because as someone who is an overachiever, I have normalized a lot of things, and it's good to normalize, right? We've talked about normalizing on the podcast, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more. But because I have normalized my wealth, my health, my who I am as a person, I forget how great I am sometimes. And when I think about the compound effect and I think about the actions that I take each day, and I recognize, like, whoa, you have already built your future self, and it's not even the future. And I want you guys to feel good about every step that you're taking. I want you to feel good about your journey. I want you to be happy now. I don't want you to put that off into the future and you have to do all of these things before you really accept your good life. all of these steps that I have mentioned are going to help you raise that upper limit. I'm telling you, if you implement this within at minimum 90 days, you're going to see incredible results. I love you all so much, and I cannot wait for the next podcast episode.